Hang on, wait a second. Wait just a damn second. Epstein was openly commenting on Fort Knox's lack of gold, and this sick pedophile claims he was on a payphone from his jail cell with the head of Bear Stearns and JP Morgan while the 2008 collapse was happening in real time, giving advice to these sick people tied directly to the Bush's U.S. Treasury Secretary team. He made a collect call to Bear Stearns and then his second call to JP Morgan.
How did you hear about what was going to happen to Lehman Brothers, and what did you immediately think when you heard they was going to be put into bankruptcy?
I'm glad you asked that question. I was in solitary confinement. You can dial a number, and when the person picks up, they say, "You're getting a call from the Palm Beach County Jail. Will you accept reverse charges?" The person I had called was Jimmy Kane, the president of Bear Stearns. And I said, "Tell me what's going on." The question you want to ask is, who was the other call to?
Okay. Who was the other call to?
The other call was to my friend at JP Morgan, who was then, I didn't know it at the time, trying to buy Bear Stearns. So at one point, I had two phones. It was difficult because they're afraid people are going to hang themselves with the phone cord. So they don't actually come together and they're pretty short. So I was actually going between two phones talking to Bear Stearns and JP Morgan at the same time. So I found it amusing.
This really just gives you some deep insight into the peak globalization kind of stuff that was running our government. These globalists accepted a pedophile's phone call from solitary confinement to help with the banking collapse. That's how out to lunch these people were. Like, get Epstein on the phone from prison. By the way, does that sound like a guy who commits suicide? I mean, hearing him, he's kind of like laughing and hell no, this guy didn't commit suicide. Plenty of evidence this pedophile is still alive today, actually. The body's switched out at the correctional facility. Another person entering his cell now that we see the video. Is he alive and well, living in Israel somewhere? Well, the body they found hanging in the cell was not Epstein at all, clear as day. That's pretty darn clear at this point, actually. And this morning, we now know that the noose that was used was also swapped out. So I wasn't convinced, but now I'm fully convinced that this guy is alive and well. And I mean, when you just thought the Epstein files couldn't possibly have anything more shocking to share, we even have Epstein's admission about this gold at Fort Knox part of the story. This guy had his dirty little mitts in everything. And the globalists allowed all of it. So buckle up, because we have a lot to unpack as it relates to everything happening right now with the US dollar, China's big moves this week, our gold reserves, what's left of it if we have any, Trump's precious metals vault plan that he just announced this week, and the total globalist collapse we are witnessing. Heck, we even have the collapse of the British government as we speak, all tied to Epstein, all tied to this whole story. So we're going to get to all of that. So what was Epstein admitting about the gold at Fort Knox? Because a lot of people are going to run with one headline and just run with it. Don't do that. We need to separate what the files actually show from what people want them to prove about a particular story. So on the Fort Knox angle, what's circulating isn't Epstein confessing that he personally verified missing gold. What's in the Epstein-related materials is a forwarded 2011 email referencing a sensational claim that Fort Knox is empty. So this was years before we had this move by Elon Musk and Donald Trump to audit Fort Knox. Empty, gone. This was being shared with Epstein and his friends, pointing out that yes, the vault is actually empty, that the government sold off vast quantities of gold and never refilled it. So what did Epstein actually know about this? What did his billionaire friends believe? Well, they believed there was nothing really there, that it was empty, that it was all fake. And of course, the official position is that Fort Knox holds about 147 million ounces of gold, with the Treasury Secretary saying, hey, don't worry about it. Scott Benson saying, don't worry about it. The gold is accounted for through audits. Nothing to see here. Don't worry about it. Just move along. Can we see it actually? No. Like Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. Can he see it?
Well, you know, I've been trying to go down and see the gold, make sure it's all there for about 10 years.
What about that like live stream that we were going to see from the vault itself? Elon Musk was going to live stream it as part of the Doge revelations. No, not going to happen. President Trump was going to fly there and see it himself. That didn't happen. It's very curious, right? But here's why this matters anyway. It tells you what kind of narratives were circulating in the same circles where Epstein moved. Stories about power, money, what's real inside the system. It shows you that unelected globalists like Epstein We're running everything. Now zoom out to February 2026 right now. And this week, the globalists are panicking. We've just seen the biggest Epstein files released yet. Millions of documents, images, videos, triggering investigations, resignations, political shockwaves all across Europe among these globalists. And one of the biggest names getting hammered is in the UK right now. Former senior minister and ex-US ambassador Peter Mandelson. He's now at the center of a UK police investigation into alleged misconduct in public office. Of course, Mandelson allegedly leaked state secrets and marked sensitive information to Epstein while serving in government. It's in the Epstein files. State secrets. Police have searched properties linked to him as part of the probe now. That's now been admitted. And now the Starmer government could collapse on the through the weight of this. We can see tomorrow on Monday what actually happens, because we've gotten multiple calls for Starmer to resign, which is happening right now as we speak on this Sunday. And that's where this starts intersecting with the economic story, because while all of this political class is sinking fast, the U.S. is moving to harden its real-world foundations of power right now. Industry, supply chains, hard inputs against China, we saw this week. This was all happening, by the way, this week during the Epstein upheaval. President Trump announcing Project Vault, a roughly $12 billion critical minerals stockpile designed to protect American manufacturing from supply shocks and reduce our reliance on China. Does it have anything to do with what's at Fort Knox? Because the goal is blunt: build a strategic reserve of rare earth minerals, lithium, nickel, silver, gold, the stuff that makes modern weapons, batteries, grids, and advanced tech all possible. We don't have enough of it, and we need it.
For years, American businesses have risked running out of critical minerals during market disruptions. Today, we're launching what will be known as Project Vault to ensure that American businesses and workers are never harmed by any shortage. We don't want to ever go through what we went through a year ago.
So this is not an abstract policy paper. This is an earthquake. The U.S. is literally building a vault for minerals the way it built strategic petroleum oil reserves. Now keep that in your mind, because here comes the third leg of this stool this week: China and the currency war. Now this all unfolded this week while everyone was scouring the Epstein files. Xi Jinping just dropped like an atom bomb. In Beijing, Xi Jinping announced a message that would have sounded unthinkable like a generation ago. The Yuan, also known as the renminbi, it's much easier to say Yuan than renminbi, they want it to become the world's global reserve currency. Xi Jinping called for China to build a powerful currency, his words, quote, powerful currency, with reserve status, widely using it in trade, investment, foreign exchange markets, toppling the US dollar. So you've got three tracks all moving at the same time here. One, you have the Epstein files detonating public trust, exposing how connected the elite world really is, and they're all connected in deeply disgusting circles. How all these sickos operate, give them all cover. A globalist collapse is happening. Two, the U.S. responding to China's export controls by stockpiling real-world inputs, critical minerals, all happening. And then three, you have China signaling it wants to challenge the U.S. dollar's position. And that means it needs credibility and a real economic footprint that makes other nations willing to hold your currency. Oh, and by the way, also this week, in the midst of all of this, we had the end of our START treaty with Russia. So that means, are we entering a new Cold War of building massive amounts of new nuclear weapons? Because we don't have a treaty anymore. Like, that is up in smoke. So all of this is happening, and China knows that the reserve currency status is built on confidence, deep markets, stable rules, no volatility, and yes, commodity leverage, lots of commodities, silver, gold, all of it, which is why the mineral story and this currency story are the exact same story. So if China wants the yuan taken seriously, it needs trade priced in yuan and inputs secured for decades. If the U.S. wants to defend the U.S. dollar's influence, it has to lock down right now a physical economy in the United States. And it was sold off by Obama, Bush, and Clinton. We need mineral reserves. So if Epstein is right and Fort Knox is empty, we've got a lot of building to do. If you want to understand why the middle class feels like it's been squeezed for years, I mean, look at who controlled all the choke points here. Well, everyone else was distracted. People like Epstein, working on behalf of Israel and other foreign governments, selling America's middle class down the river. I mean, we see it in the Epstein files. Epstein openly talking about creating chaos in Ukraine to make lots of money. So working with the CIA and Mossad and MI6, we absolutely know that that's the case. An intelligence asset selling the American middle class down the river. That's why we're seeing a new world order forming in real time. Trust collapsing, elite pedophiles being exposed, currencies competing alongside stockpiles of real precious minerals. Really the stuff that makes the modern world run. So the next few months, guys, are going to be absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And by the way, how many of you think we're going to see prosecutions? How many of you think we're going to see prosecutions in the United States? We're going to start to see Bill and Hillary Clinton testifying before Congress. Will any of them be prosecuted? Or all of these globalists just kind of get off scot-free because they're all being protected? Let me know down below. So that's the news update part of today's video. Now I want to tell you about today's sponsor, which is tied to everything we just talked about with precious minerals. The financial world just felt basically the equivalent of a 9.0 magnitude earthquake. Because on February 1st, as I mentioned, Xi Jinping, Chinese Communist Party, officially threw down the gauntlet, publishing a definitive mandate to transform the yuan into a global reserve currency. This is a full-scale declaration of war on the US dollar's 80-year hegemony. And on top of this bombshell, we just saw President Trump signing Project Vault into existence. And immediately after that, Vice President J.D. Vance, along with Secretary Rubio and the critical minerals czar for the White House, David Copley, they hosted a major critical minerals event with world leaders. Again, this is history in the making right now in 2026. The reshaping of the mineral supply chains to feed the reindustrialization of the United States of America. This is all tied to this revolution that's happening in demand for ownership of major commodities by the world's richest and largest institutions and individuals. Frankly, I want to be part of this early stage opportunity, so I've been searching for big ideas in this capacity. Just as an example, before 2004, there was no gold ETF. The advent of gold, GLD, allowed investors to suddenly start owning gold more easily. And now the GLD ETF generates a management fee for its owner company of $170 billion of assets under management. So ETFs, exchange-traded funds, made gold trading accessible to a much larger audience. And in much the same way that Blockbuster Video made movies accessible to moviegoers who just didn't want to go to the movies, they want to stay home on their couch and watch them, right? But the next revolution that could make the ETFs of today greatly challenged by better new competitors might be here right now with today's sponsor, and that is StreamX. They're trading on the NASDAQ. Yes, it's on the NASDAQ. Here's the ticker on your screen. It's STEX. Now, I want to come out and tell you right off the bat that I am bullish on this company. It's a core holding in my personal long-term portfolio. Imagine it's 2004, and you're in the room when the idea of launching a gold ETF is pitched to you to help incorporate it. You could have been a founding member of a financial product that now manages $170 billion in assets and collects massive fees on top of that. Well, this could be the ultimate commodity stock right now because legends are piling into this stock like Frank Giustra, who pioneered the gold and silver royalty business. He's had multiple successful billion-dollar precious metals deals. And right now, he turned his attention to StreamX with insider buying happening regularly. So the insiders are acquiring aggressively. Their new gold product will generate a yield for holders, and it will potentially revolutionize the entire gold space. This is all happening in 2026. So StreamX on the NASDAQ went public just a few months ago. And to me, their flagship debut product, the GLDY, it offers up to a 4% yield on a one-to-one, fully backed, vaulted, audited, redeemable, and 100% insured gold product. It's basically a Netflix versus Blockbuster moment right now for the new gold bull market that's happening. No one else offers yield on gold. I repeat, no one else offers yield on gold. So conduct your own due diligence on this company because shares are trading right now near all-time lows as we speak. This could be one of the most monumental and significant developments in gold and commodities that we've ever seen. Everybody understands how Blockbuster's business model became totally obsolete and outdated almost overnight when Netflix offered the exact same content but through streaming services and DVDs sent by mail. Blockbuster went out of business. And Netflix went from launching its first stream to becoming one of the largest companies on earth. Went from 12 cents a share to $80 a share. Think about that. Think about having first mover advantage and owning a piece of a competitor to the ETFs market, and then earning fees from the marketplace that StreamX is creating. So their chief investment officer, Mr. Mitchell Williams, who not only ran WAFRA, which is the Kuwaiti sovereign wealth fund, was also one of the sole portfolio managers for Oppenheimer's flagship value fund. And then you have billionaire mining tycoon Frank Giustra, who I've talked about extensively here on this show, along with who I consider to be a mining legend. You had Sean Rusin, who are well aware of the opportunity. So both are shareholders of StreamX, and they advise the board, by the way. Frank Giustra just invested heavily to the tune of 18.2 million shares. That's roughly worth about $50 million in current worth. Over 50% of the shares on this company are owned by insiders. The two co-founders each own 21 million shares, worth just north of $60 million. So significant skin in the game for the people that are leading this revolution. So StreamX purchased gold bullion for its own balance sheet. They are very likely to be one of the only, or one of the first, publicly traded companies to own gold on their books. Now, the platform itself was developed by the same software experts that built cybersecurity infrastructure for Capital One Bank, Bank of America, JP Morgan's credit card processing infrastructure business, one of the largest fintech platforms in the world, of course. So I want to make you fully aware of this at a ground floor level right now. Again, trading at near all-time lows. So what I'm telling you is that StreamX seeks to compete with GLD and others by offering a fully backed, fully vaulted, audited, and insured GLDY product that actually generates up to a 4% yield and disrupt the ETF model, and then take share from it. And the company was just birthed a few months ago. So every day, $295 billion changes hands in the gold market. Imagine StreamX as a first mover is able to turn some of that volume to their own proprietary platform. So if successful, StreamX shareholders will effectively own one of the world's largest and most disruptive commodities marketplaces. So guys, deep dive this. Do your own due diligence on StreamX. Again, it's on the NASDAQ. I'll have links in the description below for you to do your own homework, and we will see you next time, everyone.